Alright guys, we're going to do some SAZABI gameplay right now, and if you've been hanging around on the channel for a while, you know that's my main character. I put a lot of time into SAZABI, and so I want to talk through it and talk through what the true goal of a SAZABI player is and should be, and how you want to really deal with that. Obviously not tanking tomahawks to the face, right? But there's a lot more to this character than just shooting things with a shotgun, so I think it's important that we talk about this sort of thing. So in the situation, I just lost my shield, you know, got to play kind of slow. Granted, they're all low, so after you get your shield back, you push. You never really, like, there's times to understand where you want to die for something, but in most situations, the best thing to do always is just to play your life as much as possible. If you never die as a main tank character, you're always going to be up. You always have uptime, and you will be winning. So in this situation, a main tank's job is to hold space. Space is areas of the map in which your team is safe, or the enemy team is like at risk by being in it, and then the opposite is true in case it's the enemy's space. So right now, for example, if you take a look at like these choke points, these are areas in which it's dangerous for the enemy team to be in and less dangerous for my team to be on. So as a main tank, my job is to, if I'm playing on attack, push into areas and take the space away from the enemy, and if I'm on defense, then my job is to try and hold on to this space. So essentially take areas of the map that are advantageous, like choke points, or basically it's really all about choke points. But holding choke points and making sure that the enemy has to stay in them for as long as possible if they're playing on attack, and if they're on defense, not allow them to hold on to it for too long by pushing into them aggressively and taking the space from them. For example, we're pushing into this, but right now I'm going to want to try and, you know, control the most advanced choke point, which is right here. So this is this area in which it is safe for my team to be in because we have the corners that we can use, unless, you know, they walk out and feed like that guy just did. Don't really think I can get a res on him either. It's not really worth it to try it. Especially when I have my ult up, that's about to frag out. But you just keep holding this choke point. Anyone who walks through there, you can test them. And if they want to push through you, they want to use whatever to get through you, that's the job. The job is to make them use a bunch of resources to get through here, or you kill them in the process. And this character does a very unique role in general. Not other characters have this sort of ability to do this sort of job, and I can do it because of the fact that I have this sort of shield. That's what makes my character a main tank. Even other tank characters like Dom Trooper can't really do this sort of thing, just because, yeah, they can walk forward, they can frag, they can output damage, they can do all that sort of nonsense, but they can't tank, right? And they can't like hold space by tanking in it. So as a main tank character, SAZABI is all about, like I said, holding the space, taking the space. Now that we're on defense, after I'm gonna, you know, try and get a little bit of advantage out of that. Don't get anyone, but it's always good to try and get your ult up as much as possible because it is a very powerful ultimate. But now that I'm in defense, I'll show you what it looks like playing this on defense. Now, unfortunately, my team is feeding their brains out, and there's really nothing I can do about this. Nothing at all, actually. Unfortunately, while you do usually just play with your teammates, if they're trolling that hard, there's not anything you can do. All you really want to do now is try and, like, play in an advantageous spot, and if your team decides to, like, if any of the enemy feed into you, like this gun tank's doing, you can try and like trade a couple picks. Like, we do have faster spawns in them, so if we are able to get a few picks off of it, then it's good. But like I said, you know, if not, it's also just kind of how that goes. In that situation, another option I could have done was just back up. I really wanted to try and, you know, limit test and see what I could get out of it just by holding on to that area and trying to get a pick on something. But in that case, it ended up not being the right choice. I should have just run away. And that is the reason why you shoot those things. Again, in this situation, can't take it, just run away. And the only reason that I went actually on that first fight to really like try and take a fight there and get some damage out of it is just because of the way the respawns were. I figured that I could get a solid, like, even if we died, the spawn is pretty far for them and pretty close for us, and it's not too bad of an option just because of the fact that we could potentially get back to the point, considering they still have like quite a while to travel. But again, it did end up being the right decision. I'm gonna use my ult here just to stay in the space. We're standing in really awkward locations. Like, as you can see, I don't really have like too much of an advantageous spot to be. But, wow, I took a lot more damage than I expected to there. Like I said, don't really have too much of an advantage spot right there. Like, the choke point is right there. You don't want to go through the choke point and then give them all the angle control like we did. So, like I said, we're doing some really weird things. And unfortunately, like, just the way this game works, as a main tank character, you don't really get to decide too much about positioning that often. Like, obviously you can if you can communicate with your team. You're like, all right, guys, I'm playing right here. And if they choose to, like, play around that, then that's great. But if they choose to feed their brains out and walk off forward, there's nothing you can do about that. And even though this game is designed in a way in which you can not have to deal with enough of that kind of, as much of that kind of stuff, it's still a definite reality, this sort of stuff. Yeah, I got the timing right there. Like I said, if they're gonna try and like hold into that the whole time, if they're gonna try and hold into the little survive mode for that like full duration, you can time it correctly. And I think it's usually worth trying to throw your tomahawk at it, because, you know, you're forcing them to get out of it earlier. If either like they go out at the time that you expect them to and they get hit by your tomahawk, you can kill them, or they go out a little bit early and they don't get as much value out of it. And honestly, a lot of times you'll still hit them with it. So yeah. All right, so now we're back on our attack, looking to see if we can get a nice little W here. Looks like someone might be up there. I'm gonna go ahead and dive this. No, no one? Okay. When you do fly up in there, you can get nice little sights sometimes. You have to be, you know, you have to be careful kind of using it like as your only usage of those abilities. But it can be a solid way to get extra information for your team. Just because the wall sights are all like 100% accurate real time. Yeah, so even though I'm like the primary main tank for the team, as you can see there, I saw this Zaku melee of mine walking forward really aggressively, and when you see this sort of thing, you kind of got to back them up. This game has a sort of effect of, because there's a lot of synergistic stuff that can occur in it, it has an effect of taking the sum of your team and making it more than what just the parts are together normally. So you have to take advantage of that. And if I hadn't pushed with him, there's a chance he walks in and dies. But with two of us tanks just walking into him, walking into those people, we get a huge advantage out of that. Not against Barbatos, that character's kind of scary. Honestly, don't expect that to occur. So again, that was an opportunistic push, but it was basically what I was planning on doing anyway. You have to be the one pushing into your team. You don't want to be playing at like an angle or at a distance, just like tossing in shots and tomahawks permanently. On offense, you're the one who needs to push through the choke because the enemy already controls it, right? And then you want to turn and take this sort of positional advantage away from the enemy team and make it so that you have a positional advantage. That's basically the job of a main tank. I know it sounds kind of very, you know, esoteric, right? A little bit of a strange thing to just be happening in a shooter game, but it's the foundation of these characters and what really makes them unique from another game. Just that there are characters that do have the capability to do that in this sort of game. If you compare it to like games like Valorant and Call of Duty, you don't have any characters that can do that because they don't, you know, they don't have high HP, they don't have defensive abilities, they don't have the ability to push into areas in which like they are at a disadvantage and survive. And that's the core like difference between them. So I'm gonna take this health back and push into the right side. I really do like taking that left side just because I can use my ult to take that space. As you can see, my ult's gonna do a lot of damage out here. And you don't really want to run to a SAZABI as a Zaku melee. That character, or as a ranged Zaku, that character will just straight up lose. When you do ult though, it's really, really important to make sure that you're just living. It feels like it's kind of hard to feel exactly how much capability your ult is putting out, but in this game, it really does go out and frag. The funnels go and chase down things. They deal a bunch of damage. So if you just live, you'll be carrying your team in those situations. You just don't want to let yourself just get caught up in like a, I gotta keep going, I gotta keep going, gotta keep going sort of mentality. Because if you do that, then you won't be able to keep it up. And you won't be able to keep your ultimate available enough. If you're looking for some more Gundam Evolution videos, then make sure to check out my mobile suit guides. I made one for all original to 14 mobile suits, and I did a Should You Main guide series also, covering the same mobile suits and talking about whether you should actually main them in Gundam Evolution or not.